Hi guys, I've got my drink with me, my lovely detoxifying lemon water. Now make sure you get your drink, whatever makes you happy, and sit down with me and let's talk, because this might be quite a long one, okay? You can't say that I didn't tell you beforehand. Be forewarned. Okay, let's start. Right, the other night, myself and my children, we watched a movie called Gaslighting. This movie was about a toxic relationship whereby a man was manipulating his wife. He was emotionally blackmailing her to get her to do what he wanted.
And you thought I was being cruel to you. Keeping people away from
cruel.
you, making you a prisoner.
Oh, you're the kindest man in the world. I'm sorry.
So watching this movie inspired me to come on here and talk about it. While I was watching the movie, I got out my laptop and I started to take some notes. So if you see me looking over there, I'm looking at my notes. You know that you are in a toxic relationship when you feel that there is a resistance or a missing link in the connection that should fuse together and act as a bond between you and your partner. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13 verses 4 to 6, we are told that love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoice with the truth. If your relationship does not include nor reflect this, then you know for sure that you are in a toxic relationship. If you find that your partner, the person you have placed all your affection on, is not reciprocating the love, the warmth, and the attachment that you have developed and bestowed upon them, no matter what you do, then this relationship is toxic. If you and your partner have not developed equally and emotionally within the relationship, then an imbalance is created, resulting in one person loving the other person more. This in turn could leave you feeling frustrated and always wanting and demanding more in the way of affection from the other person. If you find that you have to constantly force them to connect with you, to talk to you, to interact with you, especially if they no longer want to be intimate with you, then you are in a toxic relationship. Unfortunately, some of you may find that the person you love may even have a narcissistic personality disorder, whereby when he or she first approached you, they reveal their polite, amicable, and charming side, which they use as a smokescreen to mask the dangerous side of their temperament, until slowly but surely they reel you into their world, a world of excessive control through the act of deception and manipulation. If this resembles your relationship, then it is toxic. There is a relationship theory called gaslighting. It is a technique used by people of this personality type to instill fear into you by changing your perception of reality in order to control you. They will use any weakness that you have against you, rendering you their victim. This creates a codependent relationship where your partner is labeled a taker and you the caretaker. A taker expects you to devote all your time, your life, and your energy to them completely. They do this regardless of how you feel. More times than not, your happiness does not come into the equation at all. Who is a caretaker? You are. You became the caretaker when you co-signed their maltreatment of you by allowing them to take over your life. You gave them an open all hours access pass to get inside of your head until they have you dancing to their tune. If you find that this situation sounds similar to your experience, then yes, it is a toxic relationship that you are in. Sometimes you can get caught up in an affair where your partner's behavior towards you teaches you how to respond to them. They fly off the handle for the simplest of things. They can subtly or even blatantly demean you, causing you to walk on eggshells, like the lab rat in B.F. Skinner's experimental Skinner box, where the rat's learned behavior came about through a method of reward and punishment from the person who was controlling the experiment. The rat soon learned that by pressing a red lever, he would be punished, and by pressing the blue lever, he would be rewarded with food. Consequently, he learned how to avoid the discomfort of the red lever and press the blue lever instead. Your behavior could be equated to that of the mouse being taught not to press the red lever, as there will be negative consequences to your action if you did. On the other hand, you are taught that by pressing the green lever could bring you some sort of positive reward, so you learn how to stay in your lane, play your position of sacrificial love giver or caretaker in order to avoid punishment from your partner. Also, you may find that you start keeping your opinions to yourself so that they don't feel threatened and think that you are opposing them in some way, which could lead to your partner sanctioning you. They act this way as a reminder to you that they are in charge and they are the controller, your controller. If this is a reflection of your relationship, then it is toxic. In spite of their harshness towards you, they themselves can be of a sensitive disposition, which means that you have to be careful around them, as things you say and do can be misconstrued and taken as a criticism of them, even though they reserve the right to say and do anything to you. They can depreciate your worth, causing you to doubt your own decision-making skills, which can cloud your judgment and make you suffer from low self-esteem. They tell you that you are too thin, too fat, you're ugly, when clearly you're not. You need tweaking, you need adjusting. You are all these things that they see as being negative. You are never good enough in your partner's eyes. Toxicity is written all over this type of relationship. Even though you may have learned how to avoid being punished by your partner, it is still not an acceptable way to exist, as mentally and physically it is exhausting and nobody wants to live in a controlled environment anyway. So yes, this is a toxic relationship. You could find that you lose yourself bit by bit and you become more and more focused on your so-called partner's need. You boost their ego daily and you are at their beck and call 24/7, and when things goes wrong, they blame you for it and you become their willing scapegoat. However, if you do protest against their mental and emotional or even physical abuse, they make you out to be the irrational one, the crazy one. This type of relationship is clearly toxic. Sometimes deep down inside, you have this sense that things are not the way they should be and that you should leave, but yet you work diligently to keep them in your life. You do as you're told. You also try to anticipate their needs in order to keep them happy so that you don't have to go through and deal with the ordeal of separation and the anxiety attached to it. You find that it's easier to stay in an emotional state of unease and isolation. If this is you, then you are in a toxic relationship. You believe that it is a bad patch that you're going through, so you put up this facade of being in a happy relationship to your friends and your family, and you play the part of being this long-suffering person who loves her partner no matter what. You rationalize the constant conflict that takes place as a way of you proving your love to them. You pray that the person you love will see how dedicated you are. They will see how much you are willing to put up with no matter how badly they behave towards you. You buy into their mendacity and deceiving ways because you have a deep-seated need to be needed by them, to be wanted by them, to be loved by them. You make it your mission in life to change their perception of you. If this sounds like you are in a toxic relationship. Lauryn Hill explained her plight in her song entitled X Factor. She told us that it could all be so simple, but yet her partner chose to make it hard for her to love him. She found this out to her peril, that loving him was like a battle, and that the relationship was so destructive that they both ended up with scars. She even begged him to tell her who he would like her to transform herself into, so that the love she felt for him, the love she gave him, could be received by him and be reciprocated. In other words, she let him know how far she was willing to go to have him love her the way she loved him, even if it meant that she would lose her authentic self. She was prepared to take on a new persona, which in her way of thinking would enable her to hold on to her lover. Tell me who I have to be, she begged, to get some sort of reciprocity. She put his behavior towards her down to him playing silly games with her. She noted that one minute he was calling out her name, but when she succumbed to his needs, he would tell her that he wanted to leave. He had her in a confused state of mind. Another part of Skinner's behavioral experiment was to put a pigeon in a box. Initially, every time it pressed the lever, it would get a treat. When he started to randomly feed the bird when it pressed the lever, meaning that sometimes he would give the pigeon a treat when it pressed the lever, and other times it will press the lever and it will receive nothing. This is called conditioning through intermittent feeding. It was left up to the controller to feed the bird at his discretion, not when the bird requested it. However, rather than losing interest in pressing the lever, the bird became more and more obsessed with it and pressed incessantly, and with every press he did, he hoped that he would gain his treat. This is what Lauryn Hill was explaining when she told her lover that no matter how much she thought that they had grown together and that she had reached a position where she understood what made him tick and what he was like, he would pull the rug from beneath her feet by always letting her know that it wasn't working, which would send her back to the pressing of the lever. For a short while, it looked as if it was working and she would get some sort of reward, and she felt like everything was fine, only to realize that the next time she tried the same formula, she would fail, and the treat, being his affection, would be withheld from her, which would force her to frantically press the lever, hoping to find the action that caused him to free up his love to her in the first place. She persevered, and eventually she pressed the right button, which got her her treat, which causes relief, making her feel like they are back on the right track, and the feeling of euphoria numbs and fades the previous pain that she endured. But it doesn't last for long, and then she tries pressing again to keep the feeling going, but this time it doesn't work, causing her to become more obsessed, once again feeling like, well, I got it right before, so I must be able to do it again, and the vicious cycle continues. When she tries to leave, he resorts to an emotional blackmail by abusing himself to keep her tied to him. She knows all this is wrong, but yet still she couldn't keep away from him. She just can't stay away long enough to be able to revert back to her former non-addictive, independent thinking self, the self that used to exist perfectly well before he came into her life. Her solution on how to end this complex relationship was for him to set her free. by letting her go so that she would be forced to be without him, thus giving her the space and the time to put herself back together because she recognized that she was not strong enough to undertake such a task of setting herself free of him. It's also crazy, she acknowledged. If this sounds like your relationship, then it is a toxic one. If a relationship is not supportive of you in the way that you deserve to be supported, and you stay in that cyclical relationship of arguing, breaking up and making up, regardless of the pain that it inflicts on you, if you can't let go of this codependent, narcissistic type of relationship, then yes, you are definitely in a toxic relationship. I hope that you can break free of this cycle and liberate yourself of this sort of oppressive relationship. I would like to leave you with this quote. It doesn't matter how many times a snake changes its skin, it will always be a snake. Therefore, it doesn't matter how many times your partner promises to change. At the end of the day, he will remain the same, unchanged. Thank you for watching. I hope that this may help you or someone in some way. I wish I had something like this when I was younger to help me to understand the relationship that I was in. It's time for me to go now. Bye.